Yeah, I do too, and I was scared going into the game when all week you didn't know if Jason Peters was going to be able to go or not. And when you take him out, I mean, it's such a big shakeup that has to occur on the line, and you get guys playing spots that they're not used to. I heard you talking about Lane Johnson, and all in all, I mean, when you can put over 100 yards rushing on the ground any week, whether you got Jason Peters in there, that's a great thing. And I thought they did a good job of, for the most part, keeping Sam Bradford protected as well as opening up those holes for the backs to take advantage of. And, I was very pleased. And I would like to not see that have to be the case for too many weeks. Hopefully Peters will get back. But I thought the guys did a really good job in a big game, in a big spot, of stepping up and doing their jobs.
Yeah, another guy I like, Brandon Graham. I thought he was a difference maker on defense, mainly because of who he was lined up against and how he was able to win that battle. You gave him a B, and, obviously the taunting penalty, boneheaded, unsportsmanlike, but that being said, this was really the first glimpse of Brandon Graham being an impact player.
Yeah, it was, and I wanted to give him an A, but I just mental mistakes to me in terms of the way that I approached grading, they're huge. You can't have them at that level. You really can't have them at any level, but particularly there in a big game again like that they really needed to win. It was right after a huge stop. They were about to, potentially get the ball right back, and that gave Dallas life on a drive, moved the ball a little bit further down the field. To me, it was a boneheaded penalty that they couldn't have, and they've got to be able to not do those kind of things. And to me, that's why Brandon Graham got a B instead of an A, because that was the kind of penalty that, to me, needs a talking to behind closed doors.
Before we get to the guys who you gave A's to, let me start down to the bottom, because I agree with you on Josh Huff. Disappointed in him. And I'm disappointed that they went to him at the goal line down there. They ran that little inside bubble, and the ball bounces off his face mask. Another thing that frustrates me with him, doesn't know where the yard markers are, it seems like a lot. He also is a guy that doesn't make guys miss. I mean, you're a smaller guy, he just seems like he's content on going down. That's what disappoints me a lot about him.
Yeah, it's the first guy who gets to him is the guy who takes him down. You're right. I love him as a kick returner. Unfortunately, and with the league the way it is now, you're not really getting many kick return opportunities. But as a receiver, he just does not seem to make the catches like you said. And particularly, it really aggravated me last night, if anybody was following me on Twitter. He seems to come up short of the first down marker every time and think that he's going to be able to make a move to get the extra 2 or 3 yards after the catch on third down to move the chains. And routinely he doesn't do that. I just don't understand why he's not aware of where he is on the field to be able to just get to the marker, catch the ball, and not have to worry about any yards after the catch. That's another kind of a mental thing with him that it seems like was part of the problem why he couldn't get on the field last year at times.
I want to go to Maxwell because, look, I'm not the biggest Maxwell fan in the world. I don't think that he played poorly last night. I like your grade. The 2 penalties I thought were bad calls against him. Look, again, I'm not a big Maxwell guy, but I thought he got hosed a little bit in those 2 calls. I thought for the most part, Maxwell played maybe his best game of the season, even with the 2 penalties. And I guess throwing that in there, saying a lot as how he's played all year.
Yeah, when I did the grades, I would agree. But when I did the grades, I didn't take those penalties into consideration because as far as I was concerned, he got jobbed. I thought he was going for the ball, and Des Bryant should have been called for an offensive pass interference on one of those 2 flags. I thought Maxwell's coverage was much better. I think they're doing a good job of mixing in some help for him on occasion that's allowing him to kind of be more of the kind of corner that he wants to be and be able to be a little bit more aggressive. I think he's not getting beat as badly. In fact, it was Nolan Carroll who got beat on the one big play to Des Bryant early in the game. Maxwell, I would agree. I think that was probably his best game so far, and hopefully it's a sign of more consistent things to come for him.
Scott Grayson's got Grayson's grades after every Eagles game at 97.3 ESPN.com. He did hand out some A's. The one I want to point out, you gave one to Murray, you gave one to Matthews. I think warranted. Hicks as well. Jordan Matthews, obviously Bradford. I think second half, first half, I thought they didn't show a lot of confidence in him. I'll get your comments on that. But Caleb Sturgis, I want to give him a little bit of airtime because a couple of weeks ago we were all over Kelly saying, why aren't you cutting this guy? Let's go. What's going on here? He's stuck with this guy, and a 53-yarder at that moment of the game and I saw you tweet, you didn't agree with the call because if you miss it, you're giving the Cowboys virtually, 15 yards to get in Bailey's field goal range. Sturgis stepped up last night and connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I was sitting there doing the grades and I was looking them over one more time before I put them up, it dawned on me, man, I didn't put him in there. And like you said about giving him some airtime, I wanted to give him some pub because I thought that was huge. It was a huge kick in a big moment. And the one thing that maybe Chip learned a little bit from in the past was, he didn't wait to make that decision and then run his team out there and have to make a hurried kick, which cost them the Atlanta game. They got out there, they got set, and, he looked confident drilling it. He looked like a confident kicker. And to me, that's not the guy who we saw the first week he took over earlier in the season and was missing extra points and field goals. I would not have made that call if I were Chip Kelly. It was gutsy. It worked out for him. But I think you would have just virtually given the Cowboys the game at that point because they wouldn't have had to move the ball very far to get a field goal for themselves at that point. And it was big. It was big, and I think he showed up. He looks a lot more confident. I think the team looks a lot more confident in him, and that happens after you're able to be there and build some time and some rapport with the unit you're going to be kicking with. I think it shows a lot of confidence that the staff has had in him. Obviously, to stick with him after the rough start he had when he got to the Eagles, to now be able to do what he did in that moment, I think that could be a huge turning point for this team if you look back a few weeks from now.
Give me
that field goal, everything that happened in this game was huge.
Give me your thoughts on Bradford. Again, I thought in the first half they basically, didn't have any confidence in him, and now in the second half, I thought he really stepped up.
Yeah, I gave Bradford an A because of I weighted his grade with clutch. He showed up in the clutch when they needed him. He showed up and he delivered the ball on the money. The accuracy we've been talking about, we've wanted to see more consistently. It was there. I think a lot of times, it's the play calling early in the games that really handcuffs Bradford in the offense. There's really not many shots downfield. They did hit Miles Austin for I think a 27-yarder early. But, yeah, they don't put the ball in his hands very much early in the game. They like to load up DeMarco Murray for 4 or 5 touches in a row and not give Sam Bradford that opportunity. I would like to see more of Bradford in the first half just to loosen the running game up perhaps a little bit and help the offensive line in that regard. We got breaking news right now, Scott. You gave him an A. I think he's been the MVP of the defense. We're hearing Jordan Hicks out for the year, been put on IR, according to Jake Glazer of Fox. How big of a loss is he going to be? Huge. It's really hard to describe the kind of loss and the kind of motivation and pump he gave that locker room. These veterans were talking him up a big deal about what he gave, the kind of shot in the arm he gave them. Every game in the locker room you heard about Jordan Hicks from all these guys and what kind of job he'd been doing. Obviously, the pick six was huge. I feared a season-ending injury. That pectoral and the way you saw the play that he made in slow motion, you could just see it kind of pull, and that's not something that you heal from quickly. And I thought the preliminary reports of being out 2 to 4 weeks were really optimistic. I'm not surprised he's going to be out, but you got to give the Eagles credit in terms of they had the futuristic binoculars out to be able to go out and say, hey, we need to load up on linebacker with our depth. They did that, and fortunately they did because you're just getting Kiko Alonso back at the right time now that Hicks is going down. Scott Grayson has got all of his grades posted at 973ESPN.com. It's a always must-read after the Eagles games, and check that out over at our website. Scott, Eagles, a couple home games for you coming up here. You'll be there for Eagles and Dolphins, and obviously we'll get your grades for that next week, pal. Thanks so much. All right, thank you, Mike.